So here we have part two of our talk about advertising, and we're kind of getting more into the persuasion side of it. We had talked about creating associations and started to address that in class, but and I think we had stopped with talking about national patriotism and social movements and how those can be used as associations to make your advertising seem positive. You can appropriate historical people, events, so you'll see like a lot of Uncle Sam trying to sell something, or even in the commercial we watched the other day, George Washington driving a Challenger, people dressing up as Lincoln, or using these characters that are supposed to be famous, but also using holidays as kind of selling points, like Columbus Day sales, President's Day sales. So it says discover new territory for October over here. Columbus Day sale. So people will appropriate that. They'll appropriate famous phrases like "we the people" or "pursuit of happiness" in order to sell a product. Another thing you can do is you can create an association with a memorable phrase. So if you think about ad campaigns that have been really popular, and there's usually like a saying in there that people start repeating and using in pop culture. The one that I think of most recently, and I can't really think of one unless you want to tell me in class when we meet, but the one that stands out in my mind most recently is "What's up?" From Budweiser. And so, in my childhood, there was a Wendy's campaign, and the question was, "Where's the beef?" And what they were doing with the ad campaign is they were kind of spotlighting the fact that other restaurants, other hamburger chains that you went to, you got a lot of bun, you got a lot of lettuce and whatever, but you didn't get much meat. And Wendy's wanted to make it known that their specialty was going to give you a lot of meat on the hamburger. So their campaign was "Where's the beef?" And again, Budweiser with "What's up?" But of course, after time, those things kind of burn themselves up. People get tired of hearing that thing over and over and over again. Sometimes to create an association, what you can do is you can kind of partner with another group that already has a positive reputation. So, for example, you have ESPN Zone, which are bars that play ESPN all the time and are themed like ESPN. Well, if you want to be a sports bar, an association or partnership with ESPN makes a lot of sense. Hallmark Channel, so you have this channel that's going to have all these kind of sappy movies, these feel-good movies. Hallmark already has a reputation for being sincere but emotional, for showing you the feel-good moments. And so when you dub something a Hallmark channel, that brings that reputation with it. So what about strategies for persuading people? So we've talked about associations. Now, what about language that's used? And so before we get into that, I want to address something that gets brought up every now and then, which is the use of subliminal advertising. So what does that mean? Well, liminal is just a reference to light and what you see in the light. Subliminal means what you can't see. So what subliminal advertising has traditionally been talked about in regards to is, for example, if you're watching a film, there's so many frames that play per second. We all kind of know how animation and movies work, is we show a frame after frame after frame after frame, and we do that so fast that your eye sees movement. There was this thought back in the early days of film and television that if you could slip in one of those frames, just in one of those many, many frames, say a picture of Coca-Cola, that You wouldn't really remember seeing that picture. It flashed so quickly that it didn't register with your eyes. But since it was in there, there was this thought that your brain would be primed for it. That you would for no reason that you could figure out, start having this desire to have a Coke. And they would say it was because of the subliminal advertising. But we've done research on all that, and it doesn't exist. If your eye can't see something, your brain does not imprint on it. It does not remember. It does not see that thing or assimilate that thing into the brain. So if you can't see it, you can't process it. However, there is little tricky rhetorical ways, manipulations in language that are constantly being used. And this manipulation sometimes goes unnoticed. And we'll talk about some of these and see if you can look at ads from now on and determine if they're using these structures. People are culturally conditioned to recognize and respect certain forms of arguments, right? And advertising, if you think about it, not all advertising is lying, but a lot of it is the altering of truth or giving you just one side of the truth. And whenever you suppress or alter the truth in advertising, there's this term that we use called puffery. So you're using puffery. So what are some examples? First will be the pseudo claim, right? And so it tries to make your product stand out from others, but it uses ambiguous words. In other words, you're talking about toothpaste. Our product fights cavities. Well, what does fights mean? Eliminates cavities? Maybe that's too strong of a claim. Is totally ineffective? No, you wouldn't want to say that, because if you use toothpaste on a toothbrush and you brush your teeth, you are trying to get rid of cavities or slow down the development of cavities. But maybe your product isn't guaranteed to do that. Maybe your product is not very effective. But because you're brushing your teeth in general, it may be that, yeah, when you use that product, it is fighting cavities. Or to say that someone's pill, a diet pill, helps you lose weight. Well, what does helps mean? Helps could mean that it alone is responsible for your weight loss. Or helps could mean if you take it while you're dieting and exercising. So the word is kind of ambiguous. There's no quantifiable definition for it. Another is to compare your product with an unidentified other ad. We call these the words. Use words better, stronger, wider, more. And so you're saying these things. Our product is stronger. Our product is better. Our product gets your teeth whiter. Our bleach gets your teeth whiter. But it's not really telling you wider than what, stronger than what, better than what, more than what. It's not really giving you a fair comparison. And sometimes you have products that can't really compete with one another, like what we call parity products. So if you think about products that are, in essence, a product that you can't really manipulate that much. For example, rubbing alcohol. Do you care what brand of rubbing alcohol you buy? Or do you just look for a bottle that says rubbing alcohol or peroxide or sugar? For the most part, all sugar's the same. So is there a reason why you would be brand loyal to Domino sugar over Dixie Crystals? Wouldn't white processed sugar just be as sweet as another white processed sugar? And so you have these products that sometimes you don't see a lot of advertising for, because they are parody products. Or if you see advertising for it, it's because they're introducing something to that parody product in order to differentiate it. For example, I like a certain brand of bleach. I like Clorox bleach originally. Now some of this is changing, and I'll explain why. I like Clorox. Why do I like Clorox? Because Clorox was the first to come out with thick bleach, pourable bleach that wouldn't splash. So they call it splashless bleach, which is great because if you don't have like a measuring cup and you're just pouring your bleach straight into the washing machine, if it splashes back on you or it gets on your fingers, you're going to smell that. It's going to ruin your clothes if it splashes back on you. So the fact that they were making the bleach more viscous, more thick, syrupy, I liked that. That gave me peace of mind. Now, the generic brands like the Walmart brand has picked up on the popularity of this, and they are now releasing generic brands, generic examples of these things. But, bleach also can come in different scents. So it smells like fresh linen or like flowers or whatever. So even with parody products, you can add things in there to try to make them seem like they're a better buy than a competitor. Also saying no other brand is better at something, that's a little trick. Because think of it, if I say that no other brand is stronger than my brand, what I'm really saying is that no one beats us, right? That's one interpretation. One interpretation is, well, if no other brand is stronger, let's say we're talking about trash bags, right? If no other brand is stronger than your trash bag, what does that really mean? One interpretation can be that yours is the strongest of them all. Or another interpretation could be that all of them are of equal strength, right? So I was watching a commercial for a movie the other day and spotted this tactic and brought it to the attention of my wife, who thought I was crazy. But it had, I'm trying to think of what her name is. She was on Sweet Home Alabama. It's a blonde. She was illegally blonde or legally blonde or whatever. Anyway, let's just call her Jane Smith because I'm just out of it and having a block right now. And it's advertising her in a movie, and it says Jane Smith couldn't give a better performance, or this is the best performance of Jane Smith. It doesn't really tell you that it's an awesome performance. It could tell you what her limiting factor is, There's no other performance greater than the one she gives here. Well, okay, so did everybody suck in that movie? She's never before given this type of performance. Well, does that mean it's good or bad? You see what I'm trying to say is that when you start using no other is better, you could be making also a claim that everything is equal, or that the past things that you're comparing with were really, really poor, right? So you can have that kind of argument. Pseudo-survey is when we try to give things a scientific credibility that doesn't really exist. I say 4 out of 5 dentists agree that chewing dentine, I think it's actually Trident, but 4 out of 5 dentists agree that chewing Trident fights cavities. Well, why is it 4 out of 5? Is it because if we said 3 out of 5, you would think, well, that's just better than 50-50 odds, which is not that great. So there's a 50-50 chance, or a little bit better, that the gum is helping you fight cavities. What if it was 5 dentists that told you that they agreed that Trident or dentine fights cavities? Because you'd be skeptical then to say, yeah, all 5 agreed. That doesn't seem right. The other thing, we're also not told, who are these dentists? Why were they picked? Are they getting paid to do this? What's the context behind this study? It fights cavities compared to what? So it gives you this credibility, the science credibility, and you'll also see, people in lab coats talking about a product or something. It's trying to give some kind of credibility scientifically to how the product works. But often in those kind of pseudo surveys, they leave out the details. If I wanted to publish an academic paper on Trident and how it fights cavities, if I was to produce an academic paper on that, I would have to have lots and lots of evidence, and I would have to have lots and lots of caveats written out saying, well, it only works in this condition, it works up under these circumstances, here's how we tested it, and so in a lab environment we think it does this. If I'm writing an article, I have to say all that. The Trident commercial doesn't. The Trident commercial just says 4 out of 5 dentists agree chewing Trident is going to fight cavities. So it mimics science, but it's not really hard science. Juxtapositions, trying to create in language associations or in visual images associations. So for a long time there was this campaign of Coca-Cola called Have a Coke and a Smile, and it showed people drinking Coca-Cola that were enjoying their day and having a good day. And so there was that association, that juxtaposition. If you have a Coke, you're going to have a smile. They go hand in hand. Mountain Dew for a long time was trying to promote itself as the extreme drink. And so you saw skaters and stunt artists and skiers and all these people that lived extreme lives. You saw them in the commercials drinking Mountain Dew. They were trying to create this juxtaposition, this association that says, if you drink Mountain Dew, you're an extreme person, right? An exciting person. Something about being a Mountain Dew drinker is more exciting than a regular soda drinker. Exploiting coincidental relationships also takes place, in which maybe something is happening, maybe there is a relationship that's occurring, but it's not really like one is causing the other. It's just they're happening at the same time. So you have some kid that's on the commercial and says, my mom knows oatmeal is a healthy way to give me a balanced diet. So you're telling me that your mom bought you oatmeal because they're worried about your cholesterol? You're 8. You don't have a cholesterol problem, right? But it just so happens that, yes, oatmeal will help fight cholesterol. So this is why a lot of older people will take oatmeal, will eat a lot of oatmeal, because it's supposed to be heart healthy, right? But that's not why mom is buying an 8-year-old that. The 8-year-old is just telling you that there's this relationship that exists, and that's why you should buy this product. Oatmeal is cheap. Maybe that's why she bought it. She bought you cheap stuff so she didn't have to buy you this real cereal that you wanted. And she saves money so she can buy lottery tickets. And that doesn't make mom look like such a hero now, does it? Right? Hershey syrup had this coincidental relationship that it promoted for a while, where on the bottle of Hershey's chocolate syrup you would buy it and it would say, as always, fat-free. So it doesn't have any fat in it. Well, that's because it doesn't have any animal product in it. There is no milk in Hershey's chocolate syrup. It's all plant-based, right? So there is no cholesterol. There is no fat in it to begin with. Now, there's lots of sugar, so it's high in calories. It's very high in calories. But it doesn't have any fat in it, right? But you say Hershey syrup As always, fat-free, people look at that on the label and they go, oh, okay, well, this isn't as bad for me as I thought it was. There's no fat, right? But your calories are through the roof. Another thing is implying causality, right? So if you take the product, this thing will happen. Brushing with Crest reduces cavities, right? Well, is that true, or is just brushing with any toothpaste going to reduce cavities, right? There is a causality that's implied, but the question really is it the product that's making that change? Is the product really causing something? You know, we have pictures like the one here where you see for an acne cream medication, a before picture and an after picture. And the implication here is that if you use their acne cream, you're going to go from looking like the before to looking like the after. But if we pay close attention, we can see there's things that clearly the acne cream could not have done. For example, washing and combing your hair. Her hair is looking pretty greasy in this first picture. It looks like she's cared for it a lot better in this second one. The angle of the head, right? Looking at you straight on versus cocking your head to the side just a little bit so that the light just doesn't blast you square in the face. This light also is not as harsh of a light. She's obviously wearing makeup in this photo and no makeup in that photo. Well, there's a huge difference, right? She also, if you look, she's attempting a smile over here. Right here, she just has a flat affect, okay? You can even look at her eyebrows and see how her eyebrows even look different, right? And a lot of this is lighting. So is it the acne cream that's really making this difference? Who's to say? Maybe along with washing her hair, she started washing her face more. Maybe she started taking better care of her overall hygiene, and that's what led to changes. Maybe the makeup is what's covering up stuff here, right? Maybe there's a little Photoshop being involved here to make things look a little better. So there's this implication of if-then. If you do something, then you'll turn out like this. But it's not totally true. Those aren't the only factors involved. Final numbers, and this is old data, but it's interesting in that this is data that's primarily gathered before the internet explodes. And so when you see these numbers, you have to remember that they're going to be grossly inflated now. There'll be so much more. But overall, we find that the United States absorbs almost half of the world's advertising expenditures. So is there something we do better than anybody else in the world? Yes, it's called advertising. Every year, $1,160 is spent for each person in order for advertisers to get their messages to you. So if you just think about, all the advertising you see and all the money that's spent on advertising, for your set of eyes, it's about $1,100 a year. The 1999 graduating college class had individually seen an estimate of 500,000 commercials, right? Again, this is before the internet is huge, before smartphones and tablets and laptops that were easily transported. But a version of these ads is on the rise. In 2004, 54% of people surveyed said they avoided products that barraged them with commercials. 60% said advertising was a negative force, and 61% said the amount of advertising was out of control. So that wraps up the lecture there. We'll again watch some commercials, different commercials that illustrate these points, but we will do that on Wednesday. Thank you for your time.